I dare to say that every human being in this world we were made out of love. At default, we are all love. And the only thing that is difference between us and like machines is love. And we all want love. Man, woman, that player, that playgirl, anybody, everybody wants love. Nobody wants to do this life alone.
Welcome to the Love Atlas, where we discuss relationships, life, and I have all types of amazing guests, such as today I have Esra, and she is an amazing businesswoman who started her own skincare company.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here in beautiful Westlake Village. Let's start with that. I'm completely mesmerized. How did I miss this place all these years living in LA?
Yeah, hidden gem.
Hidden gem. Yeah, do not come here. How did I start this company? Well, I was formulating wellness products.
Okay.
Natural wellness products for a very long time. I had a little workshop on the beach here in LA.
Yeah.
So I did that for a long time. CBD products, wellness products, organic skincare for other companies. So for me, I knew at some point when the time was right, I was going to do something of my own.
Amazing.
So it kind of felt very natural.
Yeah, and then throughout your entire journey of, creating these essential oils and just oils for your skin that are so beautiful, which I've used as well, how did you even come up with that idea?
Well, so I am originally, my roots are from Turkey. My mom lives in the most olive oil plotted place in the world. Like some incredible olive oil comes from where she lives in Turkey.
Okay.
So that means we have all these olive trees and all these olive farms. And through her practices of cold pressing basically any botanical to oil, I was, in a very early age introduced to alternative medicine, homemade skincare and wellness products. So it is just the way I grew up.
Right.
And oil for me has always been, I feel like a lot of people don't take care of themselves because it's sometimes you think that it's going to cost too much and it's something that just certain people can do. So for me, it's really important to create products that are multi-use products and a good botanical oil, rightly formulated, can be used on your body, your face, your hair, your nails, all of it. So I wanted to create like an eco-luxury brand for the people.
I love that because it reminds me of growing up. Every time I've been hurt, had a little scratch, or anytime there was like, some sort of blemish on my skin, my dad would just always be like, put on some oil, put on some oil. So I would use oil all over my body because of that as well. And I honestly have to say it's been incredible using all types of oil, and especially your oil has been so good for my skin, and I love it.
Beautiful.
So thank you so much for introducing that to me. And since this podcast is all about life and relationships, I really wanted to talk to you about relationships and how did that impact your journey of being a businesswoman?
I think maybe I am. It's a little bit contradicting my life because I was born and raised in Sweden, so I have this very progressive way of thinking and living in many ways. The Western was very installed in us in school systems and life, which I love.
Yeah.
But being originally from Middle East, with a Middle Eastern background, it's a complete different culture and traditional. So I always say that my mind works like a Swede.
Yeah.
So the way I operate in work and things like that, punctual, I say what I do what I say.
Right.
We don't over-exaggerate anything. And then my heart and my soul operates like someone with roots from Turkey.
Yeah.
I think if you are lucky and blessed, you can find the right person you can do it together with. But I do think there's a lot of pressure on women to be able to do it all.
Of course, yeah.
So it hasn't been easy.
Right.
Especially if you're a nurturing woman and you want to do everything in a certain way. So basically trying to juggle being a house stay girlfriend, housewife,
right,
which I enjoy a lot.
Right.
But at the same time being this very, like a successful businesswoman, it clashes. And how does it clash? You get very tired because you try to do it all.
Yeah, yeah. And I want to know a little bit more about, I guess, the dating world as far as when you go on dates. and you, as an ambitious woman, share that with someone sitting in front of you, or it could even be like friends, like how do people come across?
Something that is really interesting to me here in the US or LA, but I've noticed that it's in other places too. It's kind of spreading, and I don't like it. So I want to just disclaim it. I don't like it. The second you meet a man, something that I've noticed is that they say, "Hi, how are you? What's your name?" Usually the second sentence is, "What do you do?"
Yeah.
It is insane to me because I would never ask a
Yeah.
man, or a woman, by the way,
Yeah.
but a man especially, what they do unless I have met them a few times and is relevant to me.
Right,
Because
right.
what am I going to do with what you do? I think it's quite offensive, actually.
Yeah, interesting. Okay.
And I think it's also contradicting to what men usually say, that they're very worried about women having the right intentions. Then my question is, why are you asking me after you just got to know me?
Right, right.
What are you going to do with what I do and where I live?
I think it's a lot of small talk where as soon as you get to know someone, I think a lot of people, they base it off on like, oh, maybe I can ask her. I don't know what else to ask her. And maybe they don't want to get too personal. So they're just like, oh, what do you do? But that is personal, as you mentioned, because everyone is so unique with what they might take as offensive as well.
And it's also, I did say, maybe more like a Western way or an American thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not, even in Europe, growing up in Europe, I don't really remember that people immediately ask you what you do.
Right, right.
It is really strange to me. And if it's a small talk thing, because I always answer it with, why are you looking for a job? Because I'm not hiring. And because I kind of, even because sometimes it is just innocent, they don't know what to say.
Yeah.
But to me, it's a real turnoff.
Right.
Because what are you trying to understand? Because in the end of the day, I do think that men couldn't care less what you do.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. I don't think most men care what you do.
What makes you say that? I want to learn more about that.
Because I think that men and women in general, we fall in love differently. So, and this I've heard from male friends and males in my life. A man is not saying, I'm going to go for this girl because she has this background and because she is educated and she has this incredible job. I'm going to go for this woman.
Yeah.
Even if she is whatever she is, because I'm attracted to her and because she makes me feel good and I just want her.
Right.
I think it's more visual and physical for them.
Yeah.
I don't know many men that are like, okay, she is a doctor and that's why I'm going to go for her.
Right, right.
There's probably men that are like
there
that.
There are men, but I think majority of men, absolutely. And they definitely look for the physical aspect of it. And obviously, like, I've spoken to a lot of men about this topic as well, and they'll say things like,
he's gonna cough.
Okay. I've spoken to a lot of men about this topic as well, and a lot of them have mentioned, honestly, I really don't care what the girl does as long as she has some sort of passion.
Yeah, and she wakes up and she has something to wake up for and like motivated.
Exactly, yeah. I don't think anyone has focused on like, oh, I want her to have these kind of titles. Some do, obviously, because they've grown up that way, but majority. We were talking earlier about like being picky, and a lot of my friends would always say that to me when I was single. Oh my goodness, you're so picky. But what does picky even mean, and is it right to be picky?
Well, I question myself a lot lately because it's also, again, it feels a little contradicting to myself. You know, my parents used to tell me it's good to have a union early on in life, like a marriage. And the reason they said that is because you're not as in your, like, you're not so set in your personality. So you kind of like grow, you know, we have kind of similar cultures. You being Indian, I'm being from Turkey.
Yeah.
You at 2021, your personality is still shaping. So if you meet someone, you kind of grow up together.
Right, right, right.
You're more lenient. Then that can fall off later on and become an issue. But the older you get, the more set you are in your ways and the more picky you get. Because so it becomes non-negotiables, all these things. And you have experience. So yes, I do feel like, because I also, in my personal journey, I've worked so much on myself. I hold myself to really high standards. So then, of course, kind of what I want from my partner too.
Right.
So I take care of myself. I evolved myself in many, many ways. I know I
Yeah.
can nurture my partner really well. Therefore, I want that too. Now, the flip side is, what is enough? And I can find myself sometimes, like, do you even know what you want? Because you're so picky.
Yeah.
And who are you to be this picky? I ask myself,
Right.
because I'm, always trying to have
Question
my both feet.
yourself.
Yeah,
Of
I'm very
course.
humble in
Yeah.
that way. And then the ultimate thing is, but Ezra, in the end of the day, whoever you've chosen to have a long relationship with
Yeah.
has not been maybe the best match for you or had all the things that you wanted, but you were happy for that time because you
Yeah.
made it work.
Yeah.
And you guys
Yeah.
made it work. It's wherever you water it, right?
Right.
So
it reminds me of like, again, as you mentioned, like coming from an Indian background and a Turkish background, like for us, arranged marriages are still a thing.
Yeah.
So back in the days and still now in certain parts of India where parents pretty much choose your partners for you. And then they decide at such a young age that this is the person you're going to get married to. And because of that, like you kind of already have your mind set to it. It's like, this is what's going to happen and this is how things are supposed to happen. And a lot of times arranged marriages can be looked down upon, especially when it comes to the Western culture, but it's so different nowadays because a lot of it is like parents already have certain friends who they're going to connect with on a deeper level. And then obviously their friends have kids and you know that you're growing up with these kids and similar values, similar cultures and things like
they
that.
know them.
So exactly. It's safety, but at the same time, it's also, you're coming from so many similarities. So it could be looked at, like obviously there's pros and cons to every situation, but a lot of arranged marriages do work out
And
for
last
that
very
reason
long.
as well. And they last very long as well. And I think what really resonated with me and what you mentioned is like when you're younger, you're not really set in your ways, so you still have time to evolve, mold. Whereas when you're, in your late 30s, you have had enough opportunities to love yourself and go through certain relationships in your life to be able to feel a deep connection with who you are, and then attracting that right partner. It's a little bit more challenging because you're not going to settle for less. However, I personally think it's great to be in a relationship later on during your years, because I think like you should have the opportunity to go through your own personal experiences to attract that right person, so that you're mature then. You're mature, you know what you want, you know what your desires are, and you'll show up with less insecurities, more confidence. Because I mean, come on, like at the age of 20, are we confident? We're so insecure. We're like trying to figure out life, and being with that person and if finding that right person, that's great. But at the same time, the friends that I've had who have been in relationships when they were a lot younger, they have one big advice to me. They're like, enjoy your life.
Everybody says that.
Enjoy it. Enjoy the part of you being single. Enjoy the part of, you having peace within yourself, being by yourself. It's a beautiful thing because it's not freedom. It's not always going to be there. Life changes very quickly. So just being able to immerse yourself into that. And I would say, how has this journey of being single been for you? Like, are you happy and content, or are you seeking for someone? I mean, low key, we're all seeking.
Yeah. Well, to begin with, I do think that we're not meant to be alone. That can be community. I mean, they say it takes a village to raise a child, and I really believe in that.
Yeah.
In my case specifically, being very far, all my family, I have a huge family, a lot of relatives. My own small family, mom, dad, brother, they all live overseas. So now that places me personally in a place here where I'm in a lot of freedom, where I can really evolve as a human being independently.
Right.
But the flip side is, it's so important, especially at a certain age. Well, I always actually felt like this, and I think that's why I had very long relationships here. I think it's so important for me to have my own little family here.
Yeah.
Family doesn't mean children in this particular way of saying it. My person. because I don't have my family here.
Right.
I think that if I did have
Absolutely.
my family here, I wouldn't feel as much
Yeah.
of that need,
Of
maybe,
course,
or my
yeah.
cousins,
That's a
or
really good point. I agree with that. And I think like growing up for me, it was so different. And some of my friends who are here by themselves,
yeah,
they say the same exact thing as you.
that's what it
Because I
is.
never had that feeling of being completely alone because
Yeah.
I lived with my mom and dad. And if I didn't live with my mom and dad,
They were
I can just go home 10 minutes away and like, you know, vent to them and cry it out and come back to my place.
Yeah. It really, and I think a lot of my friends that are here, I always say, you know, we are like a family because we're
Yeah,
all from overseas, a lot of them.
of course.
But what I notice is, like, in that case, so to answer your question, I love my own company and I love my routine, but um, I don't think that it amplifies when I'm with someone. So I don't really feel like somebody's taking from me, because I wouldn't be with someone that I didn't want to be with, you know?
Right,
So
right.
it always amplifies, and it's very beautiful. I love so much. I'm so in love with life.
Yeah.
And I sometimes I feel like I'm a little Disney princess from the moment I wake up with my little dog, and now I live on the beach with the view.
Right.
And I have a very romantic way of looking at life. So
Yeah.
I'm already in love, have always been.
Yeah.
And I'm so in love with someone
Right.
that is going to be my husband and the father of my children. I'm already so in love.
Yeah.
Been for a very long time.
Right, right, right.
That in my case, it's more like, okay, you have all this. Everything is already ready for someone to
Right.
really walk into your life.
Yeah.
In my case, it's a little bit like the pickiness, knowing what I want, knowing what I bring to the table, and being far from your family. There's certain practical things. So it's hard for me to be a girl. If I had my family here, I would more look at it. Okay, I can meet someone here. That's it.
Right.
Now there is so many practical things that goes into my head, because I feel like when you get older too, you don't just meet someone and you're like, I'm in love, I'm going to give up everything for you. That was in the 20s.
Yeah, yeah.
Now your rational mind goes in and says, wait, if I do choose this guy, that means I'm going to live in America or LA for probably a long time. That means I'm going to be far from my family.
Right.
That means my children is not. There's so many practical thoughts that goes into it, which ties back into why I feel the need to be very successful.
Right.
It's not necessarily because I need to have this success. I couldn't care less. It's because the answer to all my problems, in a way, in order to be able to go for what I want personally, and also go for what I want family-wise, with my own family that exists, being able to live in multiple countries,
right,
you have to be really successful.
Yeah.
That to have that freedom to do that, because I don't want to give up either or.
Of course. And if you want to be able to keep that connection, obviously, with your family, and then be able to come back here and also have your family here, most likely you're here most of the time. So that means that you'll probably end up attracting your partner within proximity.
Yes, and if that success wouldn't happen for some reason, then like at that level, I would move back.
Right.
And not because you're not successful there, but it's a little less pressure.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at my friends, I look at my brother, my cousins, they all own their homes, they own at very young age, because they stayed in one place, they worked in one place, they excelled in one place, they already have their base, so they're just building on top.
Right.
Whereas when you move overseas into a place like America, which is like the height of capitalism, and a city like LA where it's incredibly expensive to have a very nice life,
right, right,
it kind of forces you to become more transactional than you are at core. And I think this is one of the main reasons so many people in big cities like New York, LA, Miami, Dubai, London, Paris becomes, unfortunately, more rational, and they start thinking more with their mind than their heart, and end up most of the times single for a much longer time.
Yeah, yeah.
I would say 2% of my friends in all these big cities that I just mentioned are in relationships. 2% out of 100.
And do they all come from a similar background?
No, all different backgrounds. So and this is what I see with guy friends and girlfriends. More choice ends up becoming no choice.
Right, right.
Less choice more content in that. And the more you see, the harder it is to also settle.
Well, also because your life, the way life has shifted, and again, 2024, there's so many dating apps. And you have all these dating apps, you have all these options, you're swiping left and right. And I think it's not just, as you're mentioning, like there's so many options to the point where a lot of my single friends don't even have just one dating app. They have like several, and there's a lot of confusion with that as well, because you're not really just focusing on one person. Whereas back in the days, you would meet that person face to face at a bookstore, cafe, and actually have a conversation with them. The guy would put in the effort to ask for your number. And I think now, because it's so easy, that it's even if a guy might find you attractive, he's going to be like, all right, well, he's going to be distracted by the app and say, oh, well, this girl's easier.
Same goes for girls.
Yeah, same with women as well.
Too much choice is no choice.
Yeah. And do you think that most of your friends who are single, are they single by choice? Are they all seeking a partner, or are they single by choice?
Deep down, I think I'm pretty sure they're all, I'm actually 100% that they're all seeking.
Right. Yeah.
After a certain age, especially.
Yeah.
After 30, doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman. It doesn't matter what they say.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of times men wants the freedom, but also want to have someone at home that they love.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah. That void, everyone has that void, and we need that void to be filled. And the truth is, no matter how much you love yourself, you still want companionship. And yes, you can get that from friends, but friends won't always be there either. So you have that person by your side who you do a lot of things with.
Yeah.
So it is a beautiful thing, and it is important, I think, as well. And, you know, some people enjoy being single and they're content with that as well, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely nothing wrong with it. But I've noticed, I always thought, especially when it comes to men, I'm a girl that has a lot of male friends. I really enjoy the masculine energy. I really enjoy just the way they're thinking, rational, practical. It really resonates a lot with me because I'm a doer. And then my emotions I get from the women a lot in my life.
Right.
But I always thought that there's men in general do not want to, you know, get tied down or whatever, or being in a relationship. It's completely opposite, actually. I think I have a theory that especially when men gets older, there's a theory, especially when men gets above a certain age, like 50 and above, they start thinking about death, not like us women. And there's a whole theory about so the reason men usually wants to be around like younger women than themselves, or with a woman in general, is because they now understand that they're gonna die and they don't have the same energy, and the youth of a woman or the nurture of a woman will keep them alive. And also because you become more homebound and domestic as you get older, you're not out partying in the same way. Women, we can take care of an entire household. We are self-sufficient, and now we can work as well. So we are, you know, unless a man is really elevating my life, I don't really know what to do with him. But men is different. They might be cocky in a certain age of their time if they also have the means, let's be honest, because without the means, it's very hard for men to be out and dating a bunch of women and taking women out. But let's say even the men with means and they're younger and attractive, after a certain age, especially like after 35, I noticed that a lot of them want children. So they're like, I just want to get married to have a child. But it's really not that way. Let's be honest. They need, I think, us women more these days than we need them.
I agree with that.
Truly. You know, because before it was more provide, they need to provide and protect. Do they really need to provide and protect for us? I think a man should, but necessarily they don't. We can provide and protect ourselves. So men, I think men wants more companionship than women in general, and I think we're going towards a time, I think, that like our generation is one of the last generations that really is in a very feminine, can be in a very feminine place, whereas the younger girls, I see them, and they're very, you know, very independent. But I do know that everybody at default, we want love and we want to share everything. What are you going to do with a beautiful house if you can't share it with someone?
Of course, yeah.
It's an empty shell if not. You bring meaning with people.
Right, right.
So yeah,
That's true.
We have to have relationships.
I just hear a lot of men or just people saying, oh, she's with him because she's a gold digger.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you think about that? Because to me, I'm like, I've had a
So
friend.
basic.
I've had
To
people
say.
say that to some of my friends, and I'm like, no, she's not. And like, she's so self-sufficient herself, and maybe she just wanted a partner who was, more educated than she was, and more.
Actually, it's a very feminine thing,
Right.
to want someone better than yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's a beautiful thing, to be able to, like, someone who can motivate you and make you a better person, rather than, the focus being on like, oh, she's with him because he has a lot of money.
I think this term gold digger has been thrown around for so long. It's so old. I think it's like come up with a new term.
Right.
So it's so funny that men that says that, and usually it's men that calls women gold diggers.
Yeah.
But in my head, who are the real gold diggers? I'm going to tell you something. Women are emotionally driven.
Right.
We think with emotion. We eat with emotion. We do everything with emotion. Okay. Men are the actual biggest gold diggers because all they do is dig for gold all day long.
Right.
Okay.
That is true.
Career, money, what they talk about,
Right.
everything is directed to build more.
Everything.
And then the funny thing is, what is their actual motivation? It's women. Because if we took out women from the equation from men's
then who
life,
are they working
who are they
for?
working for? Most of them will probably just be playing, PlayStation or gamble somewhere. I don't know, play some football somewhere,
Yeah.
and live in a dorm with their
Right.
guy friends. Because really, what are they going to do with things if they're not impressing women,
Right.
or building for women?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think men are the actual gold diggers. Not necessarily that they want that from a woman,
Right.
but then also it's so funny. My girlfriends never tell me be with him because he's well off.
Right.
My guy friends, however, said, "Why are you stupid? If I was a girl, this is what I would be doing. I would be with all these guys, and I would take everything they have." And so in my head, I'm like, are they just projecting? And lastly, I want to say for men that has the means, something that I've noticed, especially here, guy friends of mine that has the means, that are well off, they worked really hard to get where they are, that are alone, most of them are. I see that they live their lives very fear-based. They use words like, oh, all the girls here are gold diggers, I don't trust this and that. Then my question to all you guys are, or guys in general, you became successful because you're smart. So why are you insulting your own intelligence, thinking that this woman is going to come out of the bushes, take everything you ever worked for, steal it from you, and fuck off? You're insulting your own intelligence. Last time I checked, if you are successful, that means that you're very, very smart. And if you're very successful, you have an entire team. You even have legal teams with you. Are you really that worried? So it is a lot of
and
this.
I think
is
a lot of
just
it has to do with mindset too. And I think like if you have this negative mindset going,
that's what
into,
you're gonna.
or
Where
the
are you looking for
experiences
women?
And let's say you have certain experiences that weren't so good, but if you hold on to that and not let go, you're going to be holding on to that forever, and you won't even be attracting the right person then. So I think being able to really work on yourself by letting go a lot of the things and not hold these grudges that we have sometimes.
Because it's all you'll attract.
Exactly.
So funny. On my way here, I spoke to a guy friend of mine. We texted a little bit back and forth. He's a good friend of mine. I've known him for years. I know his heart, and I know that he is so eager for years to, have a stable relationship and a marriage. He wants to be a father. And he's around 45, I think. So I wrote to him, enough now, because it's always about a party and where he's going to travel next on his stories. I said, enough now, let's find you a wife. And he said, yes, please, let's go, fine. And I said, well, it's very hard for someone, I think you scare off very serious women, because all they see is you are all these party places all around the world. So like it's very hard for a serious woman to even like